Hi, I'm Nicole Linden. I'm back with my mentor. We're going to discuss my second observation for my secondary student.
All right, Nicole, tell me about your lesson.
So, for this lesson was the introduction of slope-intercept form and graphing lines. My kids have not been exposed to this, so this was completely brand new. So when I started, I just put the word slope-intercept form on the board, and asked them what they thought it meant. So for them, they couldn't tell me what it meant, but like they could give me examples of things that had slope. Like we talked about a ramp and things like that. So from there, we went into what does this mean? Because I knew if I just gave them the definition and the math definition, that was going to be it. This was going to be way too hard, and it wasn't going to work. So we talked about how intercept kind of sounds a little bit like intersect, and they kind of mean the same thing. And so how we're talking about where these slanted lines cross. And so then from there, we identified all of the variables in the equation, and I explained, we're focusing only on the M and the B. Now, at this point, these are the only two important things. We don't have to worry about anything else. And so we talked about that. We practiced identifying them. And so, I modeled what I would, how to identify each. So I had my standard equation, I had it labeled, and then I was constantly referencing that so that they would get used to that vocab, because obviously slope is represented by an M, which doesn't make any sense, and they really were kind of getting hung up on that.
Sure.
And then I wanted to give them time to practice. And so once we had practiced that and they were comfortable with that, then we moved on, and now we're going to write the equation when I give you these two things. And then we're going to practice that and make sure. And then, I answer questions if we needed to fix it. I let them work together with their table partners so that, they had 2 or 3 other brains to help them. And then at the end, then we practiced, here's my equation. Now we're going to actually practice graphing it. And then, of course, we're just working with 2 points now. But now we can kind of continue on with that tomorrow, depending on how they manage to do with their homework tonight.
Sure. So what went really well with the lesson?
I think for this time, I think the pacing went really well. I tried really hard to not really to like use a timer, but to keep an eye on the time and say, okay, we're going to work on this for about 5 minutes. That way they kind of had an idea of, we don't have a lot of time,
right?
So I can't waste this time. And I felt like that was definitely better than the last lesson. And I don't know, I think that'd be my primary focus for that one.
If you were going to reteach it again, what would you do differently?
So once we get to the graphing part, I noticed once kids had practiced by themselves, they flipped their X and their Y axis. Okay. So I had lines that were technically graphed correct, but they were just rotated. So going back, I think I would spend a little bit more time just pointing out, like, this is your Y. Your Y is your vertical line. That's the only one we're worried about. And that was one thing I just assumed we would remember it.
Sure.
And we didn't. So we went back and we reworked those 4 problems 4 more times. And made, and then they were like, oh, okay, this makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
But why didn't you tell me that? So, but that's just how it goes.
Okay. So. When you're considering your background knowledge for this target student, what did you consider? What did you think about when preparing this lesson?
So for this target student, I know if I'm introducing something completely new, that's when he's going to become overwhelmed. And that's when it really, things escalate quickly. So that's why I chose to not start with the school, the standard definition of slope-intercept form, because it's a big kind of wordy definition. Sure. But then once he was able to tell me, he could tell me like a ramp has a slope, a roof has a slope. And so we talked about how that means it's slanted. It's not straight. It's not up and down. And so I think then whenever I presented, well, this is the actual definition, but it's kind of basically what you guys just told me. Right. Then he was more comfortable. Sure. And it wasn't as intimidating. It wasn't as scary.